Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm your host Gyro. Today I'd like to offer you another build guide for beginners of Path of Exile in 3.15 Expedition League, and this time around we are talking about Ancestral Warchief Totem Chieftain, and it is a Marauder Ascendancy, in case you're very new to Path of Exile and don't know what it is. The beauty of this build, as a quick overview / showcase, is the fact that you outsource dealing with the baddies to a bunch of sticks that you put into the ground, and they are your totems, yes. The good thing about it is obvious. You can put the sticks into the ground, put the totems into the ground and basically run away, or stand by the door while your totems kill everything in a room or in a particular dangerous zone, in an AoE next to the boss, while you can spend all of your time just dodging the boss attacks, really. Is it a good mapper build? I would not say that it's a very amazing one, but I'd say it's decent. I'd say it's okay at mapping, because you apply the same type of tactic, where you put the totems a little bit ahead of yourself, dodge the dangerous attacks and specifically projectiles that will one-shot you in many cases, and the totems kill everything. Totems themselves, Ancestral Warchiefs, are fantastic totems. They don't need any special support gem to make them into a totem, just like we do with some other spells in this game. This is a totem by itself. You don't need to do anything. It's just a totem gem. It is summoning an ancestor totem, which attacks enemies with a powerful slam attack while you are near it, and that near it is a fairly long distance. So yes, you need to be on the same screen and you can't be 2 screens away. It's not one of those amazing map clearers where you shoot once and everything is dead. No. However, it has a lot of advantages compared to those fast mapper build. Attacks are very fast. It does a mix of fire damage, physical damage, bits and pieces of cold and lightning damage, only because I have not optimized the build too thoroughly just yet. The bad is that kinda almost everything in this build is about boosting the totem power and investing a little bit into your own survivability, but nowhere near enough. The bad is how at this stage of early end game, as I am almost level 70 and just right now going through the lowest tiers of Atlas maps, but it's still end game starting for this build, I can see just how squishy this guy is. The output of damage is respectable at this stage, at least, of the build, but at the same time it is definitely going to die if you just stand there and don't try to dodge the danger. That is the bad thing about it. Gems and gear, let's take a quick look at that. Gear is kinda important for this build, and you can do it self-found and you can make this build without this particular gear. However, you will benefit tremendously if you do spend a tiny bit of time and a tiny bit of social interaction effort on community market, and ping me in the comments down below if you haven't seen how to do it. Watch my previous videos, because I have demonstrated how to buy things from community market. You need a few things that make your life better and that boost the power of your totems quite tremendously. But let's start with the main cluster of gems here, and that is Ancestral Warchief Totem. I supported it by multiple totems support because I want to see as many totems as possible. I am running fast attack support because it's to have your attack skill attack 40% faster, I think goes without saying. It's a fantastic addition to the output of damage. Multi-strike support is a good thing, obviously, as well, because it increases the melee attack speed further for the totems and it makes them strike twice. Come on, yes please. We have elemental damage with attack support because we are scaling our elemental damage and fire damage specifically. And we have added fire damage support for that exact reason as well. This is the main bread and butter part of this build. As you can see, I'm still running the simple robe Tabula Rasa, which I leveled with because I had it. You might not have it, so you might have fewer sockets, linked sockets and stuff like that. So yeah, the build may not be optimized just yet for me, because I'm not running any particular stats on this body armor piece just yet. But I am going to do it, obviously. I am lucky enough to have Mary Nord's Vies, Steel Gauntlets. I didn't buy them from community market, I actually found them, but they are amazing in themselves for strength-based build, and boosting strength in this build makes your totems Totems attack much stronger. So in this case, it adds strength, it adds global physical damage, it increases your armor. Okay, doesn't help me much, doesn't matter. And you regenerate 2% of your life per second when you have at least 400 strength, which I very much do, way above that. So strength for us is life, strength for us is melee damage that totems benefit from. Needless to say, this is an amazing piece. If you have it, good. If not, don't worry about it. I also happen to have self-found Brutus's Lead Sprinkler, which is accessible, available very early on in the game. You can start using it pretty early on while you're still leveling. If you don't have it, try and buy it. It increases elemental damage, it gives you added physical damage, added fire damage, added attack speed. There are just not that many items that are better than this one. I'm not gonna say it's best in slot, but I'm gonna say it's fantastic for this particular build. I am running Joffrey's Crest Great Crown, mostly for the sake of... I'm just benefiting from this, from the extra resistances, because my resistances, spoiler alert, are very lacking in this not optimized build yet. But I still think that for me right now, from what I have available to me, this is the best item for the head slot that I have. Unsurprisingly, for endgame ready build past level 61, I absolutely recommend that you either self-find, which happens rarely, or buy from the community market Tukohama's Fortress Ebony Tower Shield. It's an amazing piece for any totem build. Amazing piece. Naturally, A. Boosts totem damage. B. Gives you maximum life. C. Gives you extra summoned totem. And then, or so on and so forth, it increases your armor per summoned totem. That's what I was referring to when I said when you have 5 totems, it's better than when you have 3 totems, naturally. It also gives you 2 very wonderful passive skill tree nodes, Blood Magic and Mortal Conviction. Short version of it, if you're a newbie, is the fact that they remove mana and they make you rely on life. So all the skills are going to use life instead of mana. And because we are boosting our life regen and life leech, as I will show you in Ascendancy conversation, this is a better choice than trying to manage both life and mana, in my opinion. I love Belt of the Deceiver. I level most of my characters with Belt of the Deceiver. Again, if you have it, good. If not, don't worry about it. In my case, it fits fantastically well into this build. It increases global physical damage. It gives me extra life. It intimidates nearby enemies. And it also gives me extra elemental resistances. As I say always, yes please, this is great stuff. Finally, wonderful boots for totemic builds. Again, you may have it, you may not have it. If you don't have it and trying to optimize, I suggest you try and buy them, because I am unaware of any better boots for these kind of builds. These are giving me extra armor, extra totem life, extra movement speed, totem placement speed, and totems also reflect their maximum life as fire damage to nearby enemies hit. Do I need to say more? This is fantastic. My jewelry sucks at the moment, let's be honest with that, and I'm using jewelry mostly to boost my stats, such as dexterity, primarily, that I'm lacking. See how I'm using this? I would love to use something more suitable for this build, but at the moment I lack on dexterity, and I need dexterity to maintain gems like this one, for example, fast attack support that relies on high dexterity, stuff like that. That's about it as far as gear is concerned. Flasks are nothing special because it's a life-based build. I have quite heavy front load on the flasks. I am relying on extra abilities of the flask to give me immunity to bleeding and corrupted blood, which kills me very fast. So if that happens, if I see that my life starts dropping, that flask saves me more often than not. I have also Sulfur Flask of Resistance that increases damage and gives resistances. Occasionally on boss fights it's good. And I also use the Wise Oak Bismuth Flask to give elemental resistances, but you can use any other flask in this particular case. Other notable gems, look, really nothing special. I'm simply running Cast when damage taken support to proc Immortal Call to reduce damage taken in tight spots, saved my life many times. And I'm running Anger Aura, because Anger Aura adds, gives us certain extra radius of attack and gives us extra fire damage with attacks. Yes, I want this. I'm also running Arrogance support. Arrogance support, normally would make skills use life instead of mana, but in our case we're already using it. So all I'm doing it is just to boost the aura effect of anger. That's all. And here I'm using Steel Skin as a passive, kind of bound to my left mouse click shield that pops up whenever it can. I should and I will optimize this further, and I will add also extended duration support to support Steel Skin. I highly recommend, if we're making this into a guide, I recommend that you invest into straight away supporting Steel Skin by increased duration support so that you're protected for a tiny bit longer. That's all as far as the gear and skills are concerned. Let's take a look at passive skill tree, and once again, as always, I welcome you to take a look at the description of the video and follow the link there to the paste bin. Take the whole thing, take the whole build from me and use it in the Path of Building online tool that you can download for free. If you're serious about trying different builds, I suggest that you rely on that, my friend, rather than trying to pause the video right now, which of course works as well, and take a screenshot of what I'm showing. You can do that, but if you're serious about building your characters, it takes you 5 minutes to download the free tool, and then you can use those paste bin imports of the builds. And if you want me to show you how to do it, please leave a comment in the comments down below. I will put a separate video of how to use Path of Building. If there is interest in my newbie Path of Exile community, I will be more than happy to assist you with that. Alright, what do we do here? Look, we are taking whichever life nodes we can, because it's a skinny build, squishy build. We want to boost our life however we can. Otherwise, we are boosting our elemental damage, fire damage, and totem damage. That's it. We certainly start here as a marauder. We take these closest nodes, especially this node, Primal Manifestation, for totem damage, life, and duration. It's such a staple thing for totemic builds, you can't go without it. Something for survivability here, a little bit branch off, but generally you go first left and top, and you go towards the Ancestral Bond. And then you also journey down here via a whole bunch of strength nodes, because the totem relies, our main Ancestral Warchief totem relies on strength quite heavily to do a higher damage, right? And because it does, then any of these nodes are not a waste. They are boosting your strength and they're making your totems stronger. We travel all the way here towards this cluster of totemic nodes: Surveillance, Panopticon, and Ironwood. We want to take these things because they are boosting our totems a lot more, and you want this. So you want this, absolutely. A little bit here for survivability as well, life regen, life leech, increase of fire damage. Now, cluster jewels. You don't have to worry about cluster jewels until you have them, obviously. But this build particularly starts veering off and branching off once I've taken everything that I needed to take on the mainland, so to speak, of the passive skill tree. I start branching off here towards the cluster jewels. In my case, I've first had a good jewel, self-found large cluster jewel that boosts elemental damage, great, and it has a couple of very good substantial boosts to elemental damage. 20% is very good. Increase of my anger aura effect is good. So I've chosen to do that. And then I have a medium cluster jewel that I have not yet fully filled out, as you can see, because it's a build in progress. It's only early end game for me, but this one is going to be directly increasing the totem damage. That's basically all I'm doing here, and that's it. Now, the Ascendancy, my friends, well, this is a totemic build, so unsurprisingly, this is a Chieftain build. It's a Chieftain Ascendancy. First, when you go into the Labyrinth at level 33, I suggest that you take this node here, Arohorn Gui, Moon's Presence. Then I suggest that you also, on your second go through, you take Tuhohama's War Herald. This node essentially, I'm not gonna say it makes you invulnerable to damage, far from it, but when your totems are out and when there is 5 of them and they are all actively doing damage to the enemies, it's very, very hard to kill you, because 2% of damage that they're doing, the totems are doing, is leached to you back as life. So that's really, really fantastic. I intend on further 2 walkthroughs through the labyrinth that I'm going to do shortly. For myself, I intend to go towards Ramako Sun's Light to increase fire damage further, because we are boosting fire damage, give us chance to ignite and increase the fire damage over time multiplier once enemies are ignited, and then end up with Hinekora, Death's Fury, to get more life leech from fire damage dealt, and further increase strength and cover rare and unique enemies in Ash for 10 seconds on hit. That's all I'm planning to do, my friends. For Pantheon, I'm using Soul of Solaris as a Mage God to help me a little bit with the bosses, even though this build does not struggle with bosses too much, but this also gives me 20% less chance to be hit by area of effects and survive, therefore. And I'm also quite fond of Soul of Ralakesh. Almost all my builds, all my skinny builds, they are running Soul of Ralakesh, which is reducing the physical damage over time, essentially bleeds, yeah, if I'm moving, and 25% chance to avoid bleeding altogether, which is kind of adding up to a lot. Now finally a couple of tips. So I can tell you that I do like this build. It feels very, very different from tanky builds, it feels very different from minion builds, but I like totemic builds. I like to outsource damage dealing to my totems, it's good. But like I said, it's a very skinny build still, regardless of all this, all the life nodes and stuff. This is just bare minimum to get by with, but you still die if something hits you. So the main suggestion is that you need to, if it's one of your first totemic builds or very first one, the main thing to understand is that you have to stop rushing ahead yourself, as you might have been rushing into the rooms, going kind of head first into the groups of mobs. Don't do that, don't do that. I use for movement, as you noticed in the background footage, I use Leap Slam, which is supported by Fortify support, which does give me some protection, and Leap Slam also, by the virtue of leaping, it allows me to leap away or over the ledges or reposition myself smartly. So I do prefer, for this kind of build, I do prefer leaping around. I prefer it to dashing around, to, you know, flame dashing around or to shield charging around. I prefer leaping in this build. It makes me feel a little more mobile, a little more protected, essentially, due to tactical positioning. So I do suggest, first of all, for survivability, that type of movement. Secondly, always put totems first, have totems in front of you, use them as a wall in front of you. Put the totems, leap behind them. That's kinda generally how it should play. If you see that you are facing, or you see there that there are projectile based enemies, you absolutely should never approach them on a straight line. You have to throw the totems, leap to the side, dash to the side, whatever you want to do, but don't approach them on a straight line, otherwise, especially in the end game, a few shots and you're dead, my friend, and you don't want to be dead. And that's it. I highly recommend this build to anyone who has not played totemic builds, or at least not for a while, or maybe you were using Divine Ire totem build guide from previous league that I've produced, or my flame totems build, holy flame totems. They were fun, but Ancestral Warchief is a fantastic totem build, probably the strongest totemic build against bosses that I've had so far in my arsenal across, in my library collection, if you want to call it that, across different leagues. So if you haven't tried it, try it. I think you'll like it, and if you like it, please like the video as well so that more people can see it, and I know that I've done something good and you've enjoyed it as much as I did. Thanks very much for tuning in today. Please consider subscribing to the channel and supporting it if you haven't already. More guides are coming to you. This is not exclusively a Path of Exile channel. I am a retired World of Warcraft player who has my eyes on multiple things, I guess, multiple other games, but Path of Exile right now is front and center of this channel. More builds are coming. This is not the last build that I'm producing for 3.15 Expedition League. Thanks again, talk to you soon, bye for now.